up? Coming live from Break Free Worldwide Headquarters in Houston, Texas. My name is Jeremy.
My name is Moy.
And today we're going to be going over some topics. And this is the start of a series where we hope to field questions from the breaking scene and certain topics that people would love to hear the opinions from Moy and myself on. And I think this is something that would be great. I'm excited for. And, you know, along with our podcast, this is another platform for us to just kind of share our views. And if people are interested to hear what we got to say, this is where we say it rather than on a Facebook status or a tweet.
That's right. So earlier this week, Jeremy put out something on his social media platforms asking the community, like, what is this something that you want to hear us talk about? And so he has several topics, but I think today you chose one.
Yeah.
Let them know what that is.
So I had a shout out to everyone that submitted their topics. And if you do have any topics in mind watching this video, I will be asking more questions, and we will kind of have like a portal which will act as, you know, your submissions of your topics if you would like for us to talk about that. But what I saw and what I think would be dope for us to kick this off with, and you know, when we travel, I know you get this a lot, and what I hear a lot is kind of a combination of motivation and creativity. Mm-hmm. So how to stay motivated in modern times, especially balancing, you know, things in your everyday life, and then how to get out of a creative slump, or what's known as like writer's block, or in a dancer's way, dancer's block. So we'll kind of be addressing those two things, and I think it would be kind of, we're both going to offer our perspectives on both of it, but I think you would be great in handling most of the motivational side of it, and then I can backdoor that with, you know, things on creativity, and then we can trade off with there. So yeah. I guess we'll start with, you know, you being in this for so long, so long. Nah, I'm just playing. How do you stay motivated, balancing your everyday life, running a business, and what is your, you know, motivation at the end of the day to keep going?
Well, I think personally, you know, being in the game for such a long time, you have to dig deep every day. I think there hasn't been a day in my breaking career where I haven't wanted to quit. I think every day it kind of crosses my mind of like, why am I still doing this? Is it really something sustainable for me? Is it going to provide the things that I need and for my family? And so every day I'm questioning why, but at the same time I'm searching and digging deeper for something that's going to keep me going. And I think the number one thing is the love for the dance, or the love for the culture. You know, it's like when you first start dancing and you first find this art or this passion, you're doing because you love to do it, right? It increases something inside of you that says, hey, this is fun, this feels good, it allows me to express myself freely without anybody yelling at me or telling me if I'm doing this or right. Obviously the community has their judgmental standpoints on it, but at the same time it's like you do this for yourself. And the number one motivation for me is that I do it for me. And I started dancing for myself. It was a positive alternative. You know, I started dancing in 1995, and at the time, I was I was heavily involved in different things that were going on in my neighborhood, just trying to hang out with the cool folks, the OGs, just trying to put my name out there as a young kid, but maybe surrounding myself with the bad things. So when I say it's God sent, I really believe it was God sent, because it really took a different shift in my life, just finding dancing. And so with dancing, I couldn't connect it to the neighborhood. It had to be its own thing. I had to differentiate that this is this and this is that. And so immediately with dancing, I just provided everything Moy could offer to the dance and gave it. And I didn't think about anything else. And so for my number one focus is the love of the dance and the energy that I gave to it every single day. And to this day, I think that if you stripped away competitions, sponsorships, the growth of just breaking in general, I think that I would still be dancing in my garage. I think I would still be dancing anywhere I find a place to get down, because that's why I fell in love with it. That's how I fell in love with it. Nothing else existed. Mm-hmm. So that's my number one focus. That's my number one motivation.
Pretty much your foundation.
Yeah, that's my foundation.
And I think if I could add something, it's interesting to hear, And this is something that I've had to learn, and if I share advice to my students or anybody out there, you mentioned like you do it for yourself. And I think that's really interesting, and I think that's something people need to understand more and also be proud of. There needs to be, this might sound bad, but there needs to be a certain selfishness that you have with your art. You know, in order to bring out what's really inside of you and what's personal to you and add that to the culture, you do have to be selfish in a lot of positive ways. More often than not, selfishness can be a negative quality, but there is some form of selfishness where it's self-care, it's self-love, you know what I mean? So you being motivated to tell Moi's story, being able to you know, improve on yourself, that's the self-care and the self-love I think that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, you know, breaking is such a self-motivated dance that if you don't find a way to get up off your backside to go out and do something yourself, then it's never going to happen for you, you know, because it's it's easy to wake up every single day saying, I want, but if you don't do anything physically, mentally, spiritually, or whatever you need to get you up, to get up and go do something and go get it, then it's never going to happen. So I think a lot of people struggle with trying to find this success with the dance or with the art because they're not putting 100% into what they're doing. I always tell everybody, look, if you put 20% into breaking, the max return you're ever going to get from it is 20%. But when you learn to put, you know, 100%, then the max return that you can get is 100%. I mean, I look at it almost from a business perspective. You know, this is your return on investment. The more you invest into it, the more it's going to give you right back. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, and I think that's another motivating factor, you know, that keeps you going, is that you have to look at it from a different angle. You can't just look at it from like, I just want to practice and I just want to be good. No, you have to put more time, more energy, more commitment, more dedication, more sacrifice. A lot of people don't like to give up something to get something, right? They want to be able to hold on to everything and then still accomplish. It doesn't work that way. You know, that there is a balance, but you also have to learn to let go so you can receive. Right? That's a principle that was taught to me early on as a kid, and I've learned to let go a lot of things that is so hard to let go. And one of the #1 things that was so hard for me to let go is friends. I feel like our friends sometimes hold us back, right? Our circles, we like to call them our circles, right? So when people say, you know, my circle is this small or this big, you have to figure out if your circle is holding you back or is influencing you to accomplish your dreams.
You've heard of like the law of attraction, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's I've also read about the opposite of that, the law of detachment. So you can attract things that you put out into the universe, and that is a universal law as well. But the law of detachment is on the opposite side of that, and that means exactly what you just said: letting things go and being okay with that, being at peace with that, and then getting back from that what you let go.
Yeah, I remember being a kid, and I was about 14, 15 years old, and I got my first opportunity to travel overseas to Taiwan or Japan. It was an Asian country, I don't remember exactly, but I remember I literally cried that night in my room because I knew my friends couldn't come with me because the opportunity was for me. And at one point I was like, I'm not gonna go because this is not fair to them. But then what really hit me is that it's not fair to me. It's not fair to me that I'm letting an opportunity go because something came to me, not to them. Right? And if they were truly my friends, then they would support, you know, this opportunity, right? And that they weren't coming on board with me. But it bugged me as a kid. And at the time, it's different from today. Today, kids are getting flown out like crazy because it's so easy to be recognized. But you know, in the mid to late 90s, it was so hard to be recognized because, you know, YouTube didn't exist, all the social media platforms didn't exist. It was like somebody had to get a copy of a copy of a copy of some footage that somebody came across and saw you, right? And so it was super hard to get recognized. So there was a different value for traveling back then. So when you traveled, it's like you made it. So at the time, I was like thinking, I'm like, wow, I think this is my step moving forward and towards me making it. And I didn't feel like my crew or my circle was about to make it with me because I'm the one that got the opportunity, right? So the second factor is really learning to figure out what you need to let go.
Yeah.
And for me, it was my friends, and it wasn't to a point to where it was like they're not my friends anymore. No, it was just like understanding a level of sacrifice that is needed for improvement in your own personal well-being or personal life of your art or success or whatever you want to call it. But it's having a level of understanding for that sacrifice.
Yeah.
And that was tough. But once I understood that, that also motivated me to keep working hard and keep moving forward. So every single day, 23 years later, I've been breaking 23 years, I'm trying to understand the level of sacrifices that I make every single day. And if I can understand the level of sacrifice, then it's like, okay, I get it, boom. So if I sacrifice this, maybe it would allow me to create an opportunity for somebody else, and then that creates more influence and more motivation to keep moving forward.
Exactly. So to make that applicable for the viewers out there, that means you got to evaluate and you got to reflect and look at things in retrospect and see if there's something that is, simply holding you back. People say it like that, something might be holding me back, but it's not even that it's holding you back, it's just something that's working against what you want. So there might be something that's directly blocking and directly holding back on, you can call it what you want, you can call it a blessing, you can call it, but it's something that you want and something that you want to attain, but you just don't even realize, you're oblivious to the fact that it's impossible for you to receive it because you haven't let go of something particular.
Yeah, and then for my third variable of what factors this motivation is, it's finding something else that gets you excited about what it is that you're doing. And something else that gets me excited is knowing that people are impacted or influenced or inspired by what I bring. Now, my dance isn't for everybody. I believe it's for me only, but I've known people to come up to me and say, hey man, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be breaking today, or if it wasn't for this footage, and you were in it, I don't know what I would be doing today with my breaking and stuff like that. So that is my third variable of what factors this excitement or this motivation to keep me going, is that I know how many people are impacted by what I bring.
Yeah.
And it sounds kind of selfish and arrogant, but at the same time, it is a boost of motivation for me because at that point, it's showing me that I'm not doing it for myself.
Yeah.
That other people are being impacted through my dance and through my art. And so if I stop, no one's going to be impacted. They may have been impacted by the movement I left behind, but if I stop and if I quit, then I feel like I'm letting a lot of people down.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm so encouraged and so motivated every single day to work out, train, eat better, or be a better person, not only in my breaking, but just as a person, because people are watching what I do. People are watching how I train. People are watching how I battle. And having this level of class and commitment to what I love and what it does for other people is another boost of motivation.
So to kind of summarize it, it seems like, to package it all together is, first things first, you have to take care of yourself. And you have to figure out why you're doing this and coming from your own heart, nobody else's heart.
Definitely.
And then from there, other things might come from there. It might be impacting other people, and all these reasons, additional reasons for you to continue, come from that initial you finding yourself and you foundationing yourself and finding your reasons and motivations to do that. And I think that's important too, to prioritize that, is that you have to get yourself in order first. And that falls in line with a lot of things. I think it's, and this is something I learned from you, you being a mentor for me in my teenage years, is that, like, Jeremy, you can be the dopest dancer out there, but you got to get your straight before you blow up and you get and you receive these blessings. And I think that's something that should hold true for, and something that people should really pay attention to in this breaking scene, because to put it bluntly, the demographic of B-boys and us traveling the world and what we've seen and dealing with B-boys, I hate to say it, but a lot of B-boys and B-girls tend to fall on the side of, like, not having their things together, whether it be like family life or financial, and people might get angry at that, but you shouldn't get angry at that, because like we come from a place like we really care. We've been dealing with the scene for a long time, and this is just an observance, you know. So I sit back and I ask myself why, but and that can be another topic later, but I think that's something that I had to learn firsthand. And even with my personal circle and my peers, like me growing up in my teenage years, and I guess me separating from certain peers that I had, you know, I can think, you know, a certain part of it has to do with skill and work ethic, but I know a lot of it has to also do with, you know, me getting things in order for my personal life, because it also falls in order with, like, as a dancer, you're basically speaking with your movements, and you're saying something, and you're putting your emotions on display. So I'm sure people have heard this before, but if you're angry and you're dancing, you're going to be able to see the anger. You know, if you're troubled and you're dancing, you'll be able to see that trouble. You know, you've been dancing with me a long time. You've been dancing with me and my brother Palmer for a long time, and you've made comments before like, yo, I noticed something. Like, just from off the strength of me dancing, from you observing me or Palmer dancing, like, yo, is something going on? You know, or like, yo, Palmer's really happy nowadays, you know, like, because it's the way he's dancing. So, you know, that's a testament, and I think people.
That's the foundation, right? That's the number one thing I mentioned.
Yeah,
it's like
that's the foundation.
You find whatever it is that makes you happy, and this is why you do it. I think this is why you do it. And I think a lot of people get so caught up, or they get this dancer's block or the writer's block or whatever you want to call it. They get so caught up in trying to move forward because they're so focused on everything else and not focusing on what currently is happening within themselves. And one thing for me is that I've been through all of that. So I can share this with everybody and say that, you know, I'd be lying here if I didn't say I've never had that. No, but through experience, I've been able to learn that the number one focus should be your foundation of what, not your foundation like the form of breaking. No, your foundation within yourself.
But it's also a metaphor for that.
Of course. But like the foundation of what motivates you every single day to get up. You know, do you dance because you love it, or you dance because you're trying to get some money from it? I mean, what is it? And that's totally fine. You can have your source of motivation from wherever, but for me, what it does is it's the love of the dance, it's the love of the culture, and the people that is brought close to me. You know, if it wasn't never for dancing, I wouldn't know so many people across the world. And that is another huge influence, is what this community or this culture has brought to my life, and the amounts of partnerships, relationships, memories that are just never ending. I mean, they have been ongoing since I was a kid. I've been able to travel to nearly 64 different countries all around the world, all expenses paid, getting paid through something I fell in love with. And I believe this same thing can happen for anybody. It's how much you give it. Right? Remember what I talked about, your return on investment. You invest into it, it's going to give it to you right back. But because you see other people being blessed a lot quicker, doesn't mean you're not going to get that. It just means that maybe they're doing a little bit more than you right now.
Or it's their time.
Use all that. Use everything that's currently happening within yourself, and take a good hold of it and figure it out. A lot of people don't like to acknowledge what they're not good at. You have to acknowledge what you're not good at so you can fix it. It's really, really important. Everyone acknowledges what they're good at, and that's the only thing they run with. And then that's where I feel like dancers and writers get that block, because they are so only focused on what they're good at. You know, but in order to get better, you have to fix what you're not good at. And another thing I get a lot today is like, you know, besides, you know, what keeps you motivated for so long is like, how are you staying motivated? It's like, I get this question like Moy, how are you getting so good and still staying motivated to doing it? Because every time we see you, we feel like you're bringing something different. And I think where that stems from is that breaking is an individual dance in terms of like, it's an individualism. You have to bring out you. So I always say, well, no one's going to be a better me. And so I always have to bring something different, a reinvention of me. So what I did in 2000, 2001, 2002, I'm not trying to do that today. It's not to say that I can't. It's just I'm not trying. I'm not feeling that. It's a whole new me. It's a whole new vibe. I know so much more today than I did back then, that I'm using the influence of my experience of today, and I'm trying to let that translate over to my breaking, and what that translate is what it translate. And if you like it, you like it, and if you don't, you don't. Yeah. You know, but it stems from kind of what we're talking about, that feeling, right? Whether it's motivation, sadness, pain, anger, excitement, whatever it is, that's what's going to be displayed. Yeah. And I think that's the true honesty of breaking. When breaking is displayed honestly, is when you pour out your true feelings to it, not trying to conform to what someone else wants to see from me. Exactly. Because then that doesn't win anything for me. Yeah. So I always say too, I may have lost the competition, but I didn't lose the battle, because something that I was battling for that day and that moment, I was able to express and win my personal battle. But I wasn't able to win the competition, but at the same time, I was able to express myself and get the win that I wanted internally, not externally, what everybody wants to see. Yeah. So that is another boost of motivation, is that, you know, learn to battle for yourself. Learn to battle to fight and do this because you want to be better inside, and because you want to release and express something that needs to be expressed in a more positive way, rather than getting online and ranting about somebody that you're going to wish you just never did, because it doesn't justify anything. But you going out there and pouring out your art and your dance and your passion, it justifies your true self. And ultimately, that's something that you can't put a price on. Yeah.
And to get more specific, like skill-wise and breaking, I think it's safe to say, you know, to build on what you said about coming out and displaying what you're feeling at the time. You know, what people need to realize is your feelings are so chaotic. You know, you don't feel what you feel at this moment is going to completely change the next moment. You probably won't have that feeling. You know, feelings are fleeting. So safe to say, if you foundation your dance off of feeling, then your round should look completely different every single time. Yeah. And it's safe to say that we as dancers, what we strive to do in our specific school of breaking is we try to look different every single time. And if we had it our way, and if it was ideal, what we're trying to do is to not like do these same moves over and over and over. And in the climate and in the scene nowadays, I think that's the most prevalent thing that you see, is people creating sets that are done, things like that. So to kind of go more into the creative side of things, you know, I get asked this a lot, like how do you know, I guess I'm built as a creative b-boy, so I get asked, how do you create, like what is it, you know? And when I do workshops, I do a majority of my workshop based on like how to create. So I would say it falls in line with everything that you're speaking on when it comes to motivation. And it's almost like, if I could put it in words, the best way to create is to not try to create. And if to put that in a different way is to let things happen naturally. And I know that sounds vague, and that's not like a thing that people can directly apply, but if I can get more specific with that, it's letting things inspire you and letting things naturally, you know, manifest themselves. Well,
letting true things inspire, a true feeling.
Yeah, so obviously as a dancer, the number one thing for me is music. So when it comes to motivation, when it comes to creativity, I will 10 out of 10 times come up with a new move if I listen to new music. And that's the most simple rule and the most simple fact that I think b-boys and b-girls need to recognize nowadays, because with the competitive scene, and most of the time we have this group of DJs that go most of these big competitions, which is not to discredit any of them. All of them are my homies and they're super dope with their craft. But you know, I've had conversation with them myself, and they play different music as well. And just as we as dancers try to bring new moves, they try to bring new music. But the average b-boy and b-girl, they go and they type in DJ da da da, DJ da da da, and pull up their mix, put it on for training, and that's what they train to every single day. So I think, you know, for people out there with writer's block or dancer's block, you just need to first look at that. Like if we had a guide to creativity, I think that would be the number one thing, is look at your pattern of music and what you're listening to. If you're dancing to the same music, you are going to dance the same. That's just the simple fact, you know. So I would explore, you know, new music, new genres, You hear people talk about this all the time, but personally, like me, it ranges. You know, it ranges from funks to 90s hip hop to modern day hip hop to jazz to Brazilian music to to everything in between. You have to challenge yourself as a dancer, and if we are going to say that breaking is a musical dance, then we have to really be musical and expand. And it doesn't mean that we have to battle to Brazilian music. I think it would be dope personally, but it means if you're trying to create, you need to open up your palette and open up your receptors and open up your mind to ingesting this different type of music, which should be dictating your movement first off in the first place.
Well, I think, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think you brought up a good point where B-boys are looking up DJ da-da-da, DJ da-da-da to get that mix that they want, because that's what they're used to watching on YouTube, and they pull up these mixes because that's what they're used to hearing. And I think that that's the reason why I feel like a lot of B-boys and B-girls today look the same, because they're listening to the same music, they're being influenced by that same style of the same beats that are kind of repetitious over and over, and that's played at every single event, on every single footage that's uploaded on the net. And so they're influenced, and then they watch the clips of all these highlight clips of all the B-boys that are doing very similar moves, and I think that's why a lot of B-boys and B-girls look the same. So that's why I felt like the creativity side of breaking has kind of fell off a notch, because I don't see much more different movement in dancers today. You'll see it from people that these guys listen to something different. These guys are studying something different. But the younger generation, I feel like, are so caught up on a certain style or a certain trend of breaking, hence why they start to look the same. Right? But I think it stems from the music, them listening to the same style of music, the same beats that are played at every single event. So Jeremy's right. You got to go out there and just try different music. Everything doesn't have to be a breakbeat. I personally don't even like breakbeats. I don't like to get down or create to something that's moving me really quick. Like, I know a lot of people may hate on this, but like in my garage, I'll just train to like Travis Scott, because it's different. It's different. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm not down with the modern day rappers and all that stuff. Well, if I kept on trying to dig deep off the stuff that I'm used to, then I don't allow today's generation to influence me to be different today. So I think this is also what keeps dancers relevant today, is when you have an understanding for both grounds, right? This old ground and this new ground. And so you have to listen to different music. You don't have to like it, but just try it.
So definitely the number one thing for creativity is music. We're dancers, and as dancers we need to recognize that. But if I could prioritize second what I think is important for creativity, I would say environment. So for me, people have their sanctuaries, their dojos where they practice, and that's dope. That can always be your go-to. But if I could get specific with the advice, maybe go to the park, try breaking in the park. Try getting down somewhere, try putting lights around the floor that you have at home. Try drinking Monster Energy. Shout out Monster Energy. But seriously, environment is key. As dancers, we take in the music, we let the music dictate our movement, but it's just simple facts with life is, you absorb the energy from your environment. So, something as simple, like I break in my garage, and I've done things like, and this is crazy, if you follow me on IG or Palmer on IG, you see this, but like I write messages on my floor. It sounds kind of psychotic and crazy.
Yeah, you're pretty crazy.
But I literally, write on, I get a fat paint marker and I write on my floor, or I'll write on the wall.
Wait, what does your wife think?
She thinks I'm crazy, but that's why she loves me too. So, but that's actually number 3 for creativity is your wife.
No, let's go back to the breaking topic.
So yes, I mean, this is just some things that I do, like, and I'm pretty crazy and extreme with it, but that's just what works for me. Like, I love, letting my energy out in that way. and I can't really detail what I write on the floor. Some of it's explicit, but maybe I'll share that one day.
But I think that's good though, because you said this is what works for me.
Yeah.
And I think one thing to understand too is that we may be sharing all these different variables that factor into creativity, motivation, but you got to also dig deep to what works for you.
Yeah, don't go right on your floor. That's Jeremy saying.
Yeah, you know, because you could go to jail if you're out somewhere publicly. Jeremy taught me how to write on the floor or on the wall. No, that's vandalism.
Yeah, but yeah, that's something. If you're like, we should have a disclaimer for these videos and advice. is this is advice, and when we tell these personal stories, it's stories that are it's things specifically that work for us. But you know, this is something I had to learn at a young age too. Is there's a difference between inspiration and emulation, or you know, biting and inspiration. What you have to do, and if I could try and word it in a great way, is to, you know, people who inspire you, take what they do, flip it in your own way, and apply it like at its most fundamental level. So when I talk about writing on my floor, writing on my walls, what I'm doing is switching up my environment. You know.
So would you say
switch up your environment?
So would you say your number one like environment for breaking is your garage? Like that's this is where you would rather be at all times.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought about this the other day. You know, in the 90s, there was a big trend of like grunge and garage bands. You know, people like Nirvana and like punk rockers and things like that.
Yeah.
And they were literally musicians who created music in their garage.
Yeah.
And I think when people think about people who break in their garage, some of the first people they think of is probably me and Palmer.
Yeah,
because of how much, you know, stuff we put out. But I think that really has influenced my style, and you can tell, like, I've been hearing lately, like, I would like to think I switched my style up a lot, and I look at footage from when I first started dancing to now, and it's completely different, but I hear a lot lately that people think I have, like, a grunge style now.
Yeah.
And I think that can be reflective of me dancing in my garage, you know, in, like, a grungy, chaotic way, and that's my environment, you know, and honestly, like, it would be dope to experiment with this, like, maybe for a month or two, I stopped dancing in my garage, and I just completely trained here at Break Free. My style would switch up.
Wait, there's something wrong with training at Break Free?
No, there's nothing wrong with it, but what I'm saying is, like, that, if I specifically just, you know...
No, I'm just messing with you. I got you.
But if I specifically trained here at Break Free, or I did it I trained at a park, you know, for just 2 months straight, your style would be different, you know, and that's a testament.
Well, it's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different feeling, and that's why you hear a lot of b-boys and b-girls when they go to the jam. I just wasn't feeling the vibe. Maybe the room is too big. You know, let's like just recently a freestyle session. A lot of people were talking about, man, the vibe wasn't that good in the main room, but in the top rock and funk room, the vibe was incredible at freestyle session, right? So it's, you know, people are gonna have their feelings and their vibes for the places that they're in and the environments they're in. But I think that you're absolutely right when you say the environment is also either a creative block or a great way to create forward within using and adapting to these environments, because some people use it against themselves, like, oh, I didn't like the vibe and whatever. But at the same time, it's like, I think b-boys and b-girls, regardless of where you're at and what environment you're in, you still have to find a way to adapt. And I think that happens over time. The experience and the professionalism as a dancer kind of adapts over time. Yes, we all have our places where we love to get down, and the feeling is true and the vibe is true, but at the same time, even though if the vibe isn't right, we still got to learn how to vibe right. So like, we have to learn how to adapt to the environments. So
that's a great thing to bring up, and I've thought about that, like, and I've taken it down to this, because there's been events where, like, I could say I didn't feel the vibe, but at the end of the day, I can
say it a lot.
Yeah, I can say it a lot, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna say this, is if I want to be able to overtake the vibe, and like, my vibe is so strong, and the energy I bring and the style and creativity I bring is so strong, it completely takes over the vibe. So I think that's what people need to own up to, and like, that's what you talk about, adaptability.
Yeah, I used to say this in my workshops too, that sometimes you kind of have to be the thermostat in the room. Like, you have to come in and set the temperature. You either want it cold or you want it hot. And you're this little knob, and you go in there and you turn it whichever direction you want it to turn it, but you have the control, right? But if you sit and dwell on everything that's not going for you, then you're gonna be cold. You know, nothing's gonna happen for you.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to figure that out, and you have to. That's what I'm saying. You have to learn how to set the vibe right. Because if not, we're just gonna keep complaining and complaining and complaining. And you know what? We're human beings. We're b-boys and b-girls that go out to all these events. We're gonna complain about something, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna, as long as we acknowledge it and we try to fix it, like I mentioned earlier, we have to acknowledge what we're not good at so we can fix it. And most of the time, we're gonna go to these events, and the environment isn't gonna be right for us. Find a way to make it right, right? The DJ's not going to be right for us. Find a way to adapt to the DJ.
I think this is what people talk about when they say presence, right? When they say presence, it's like, you got to look at it like, if you're bringing your energy and your style over there to wherever you're going, say you travel and you go to a jam, like, the odds are already against you. You know, like, the event was created for B-boys and B-girls, but B-boys and B-girls are different. The event wasn't specifically tailored for you. It would be selfish of you to think that, you know?
Boom!
Like, when I go to California, like, I'm not a California guy, so it's already against me, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know, you look kind of like a California guy.
But I'm a down south, south side, dirty south, Houston, Texas. Mm-hmm. Feel me? So, I'm already, like, I'm at home when I'm in Texas. I'm in Houston, I'm on the south side, southeast, to be specific. So, anyway. So, when I go to LA, the environment's different for me. You know, an event. And I'm not when I was dancing, I started dancing in my garage in small spaces. So I'm already going against, you know, something that's not made for me, you know, specifically for my style, you know. If not, it would be a lot different. But just like how I said, if my presence is strong enough, if I've truly worked on something and I've trained hard and I've brought something new and I'm at 100, I'm Jeremy at 100%. I know I'm going to light that room up.
Right.
You know, I know when I step out there, the vibe is going to change and it's going to switch over to me, and now it's my time. And everyone's going to feel that presence. And when I'm not on 100 and I'm at 40, whether it's, you know, me because I in a different state of mind or I let something get a hold of me, that's when I lose. That's when my presence ain't felt, you know?
Yeah. So you mentioned environment. I want to be able to chime in on the creativity. I think another good element that helps me create is people, right? Sometimes, like when I'm breaking with you and Palmer, you guys, it almost forces me in a good way. Sometimes the word force can be used very negatively, but it forces me in a good way to try to be different and dance different. And so you got to learn how to surround yourself with the right people that allow you to create differently. Yeah. Because if you know, if you're a power head and all you do is surround yourself with dudes that do power moves, that's all you're going to continue to do, right? But if you learn to surround yourself with people that are dancing differently, you know, adapting to the music differently, adapting to the floor differently, then you're going to try to, you're going to find yourself adapting differently. Yeah. And so it's good. It's a subconscious influence that kind of just naturally, organically pours over. I need to hang out with more power heads. Yeah, like a whole lot of them. But if you power hit me up, it's train. You know, it's important to surround yourself. Like you know, like training with Little John. When you train with like Little John, it's like you better be prepared to just dance and just and battle and go for a long time, because that's what John likes to do. You know, he just likes to just keep going and keep going and keep going. And so that's always been one of the reasons why I also used to like training with John. It's just like, it was just like, you would just go. You know, how many times have you guys trained together and y'all just battle for like 30 rounds? And it's not like you guys are doing 30-second or 1 minute rounds. It's just like just going in and out, in and out. And at the same time, you guys are doing something different every round, you know? And it's just, again, having a different understanding of surrounding yourself with people that are going to make something different come out. So even in major competitions today, if someone doesn't attack me super hard with a whole different style, then it's going to be hard for me to fully flourish in what I can bring out, because they're not doing it for me. They're not doing it for me. Because if you go out there and you did something that I did something similar 10, 15 years ago, then it's not impressive.
That's a great, that's a great point to bring up, because that's kind of like the easy route to take. So when you have a scene and you have thousands and thousands of b-boys who are dancing similar, and you're battling against these b-boys, and they might come out and do the same thing, the easy route to take is to be like, man, I gotta play the game. You know what I'm saying? I gotta play the game. I gotta go out there and I gotta do the formula. I gotta do top rock, go down, footwork, freeze. Like, oh man, I haven't been doing enough power moves lately. Or man, let me throw in flare, one more flare, icy ice, halo, baby freeze at the end of my round. And that's going to give me more points. You know, like, it's easy to play that game.
And I've tried to do that. And I've tried to play that game. And it's me. No, it's me at my worst. It's me at my worst.
Because we're not that type of, like, man, we're not that tight. And there might be people who can play that game. And those probably are the people who are winning nowadays. Those are probably people who are winning nowadays. But, man, they're, like, you have to acknowledge the existence of the game. And you can make a choice. You can either play it, which is the easy route, or you can take the hard route, which is disrupt the game and add something new to the game and become sort of like a glitch in the system. Like, damn, how did Jeremy win this competition with no power moves at all? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. How did Moy win this without doing any of the sets? Yeah. You know, but when I look back on that, like, those are the most memorable moments. Like, damn, this fool really won just being himself, not playing the game, you know?
Even if you watch kind of like the history of my breaking, I never really had sets. I have set moves. I have my signature moves that, you know, I've done throughout the years and people see, but if you watch, they're always from different places. They're always coming in from wherever. It's what I feel at the moment. Sometimes I'll throw a move that I did 15, 20 years ago, and then sometimes you won't see them at all. You know? And I think that's the beauty about you truly being you, is that you do what you want to do. And if it wins, it wins. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But ultimately, you can walk away from the competition and be like, well, I did my thing, you know? And yes, you're always going to look back and be like, yeah, I could do this better, because naturally that's just who we are. We're very competitive and we want to be better. But at the same time, it's like your integrity, it weighs more than what people want to see. And so, like, you go out there and you just feel it and you do what you do. And I think organically that's always going to make you feel better. And so creatively, try to find something that just makes you just be free. Like, just absolutely makes you go out there and just freestyle, and makes you do so many different things that you've never done before, you know. And in practice, do this. Set a camera down, put your phone down or a camera, put it down, and just move freely, you know. And a lot of people don't like to do this because they feel like, well, if I find something I like, I may not be able to do it the same. I'm like, you're probably right, but at the same time, you could take little things here and there. Everything that I've ever created has been from that. Has been from just me messing around.
Came from chaos.
Yeah, it just came from no order, right? There's no order in my breaking. And that's why, like, it's very contradicting to how, you know, we see business and then the breaking world. Because in business, it says, like, you should not operate.
Order.
Yeah, you should not operate off emotion, right? Everything has to have structure, order, strategic planning, all this stuff. And then in breaking, it's like, no, operate off your emotion. What are you feeling? Let's go. You know, and I think that's
what breaking means.
And that's what art is. That's why art is so controversial. That's why a lot of people don't understand the Picassos, the Basquiats, the Salvador Dali's. Why? Because it came from a different place. It came from something where they understood, and it became so much more valuable later. Because it can't be reproduced. You know what I mean? But if something can be reproduced today, it has no value. So, you know, be a Picasso, be a Salvador Dali, be a Basquiat, be this by operating in your emotion when you fully go out there and just pour your entire feelings on the floor.
So we detailed music, prioritizing music for creativity, environment, you know, the reward of being a creative individual. And I think the best way to wrap it up, is to talk about, like, taking your time with it. And I know to piggyback off of what you said, you were kind of going into that, but, you know, that's something that I've always had to remind myself of, you know, 12 years into this, and is that this dance is so diverse and so expansive that you literally can spend months on one area of it, you know. It could be top rock, it could be footwork, it could be balancing, it could be power, spinning, whatever. You literally can spend, you know, hours and hours, days and days, weeks and weeks, months and months on one particular topic. So if you have creative block, if you have dancer's block, realize that, remember that aspect, that this dance really gives you the freedom to create anything that you want to do. Anything. You know, breaking, I'm not going to knock any other dance style, but, you know, every other dance style that exists has foundation respectively like breaking does. But you know, you hear it all the time. Breaking borrows from other dances. You know, you can see a b-boy do house steps in their round, and that's okay.
Yep.
It's okay to do it. You know, you have b-boys who are tired.
It's not what you do; it's how you do it.
It's how you do it. You know, so me reminding myself of that, and then you know, looking at that and appreciating that, but then also taking my time with it. You know, experimenting, going slow, and going out of my comfort zone. You know, I think that's one of the biggest things, and I know you detailed that earlier, but to go deeper into it is, man, you gotta do things that make you uncomfortable, man. You gotta do things that make you uncomfortable. Otherwise, you stay complacent.
Comfort creates laziness.
That's right, and it creates complacency where you just get, you know, you're okay with how things are. So me pushing myself, like, you know, I can relate personally when I first started, and you can remember, like, I started off just doing footwork because I was just so weak. I couldn't do handstands. I couldn't do nothing, you know.
Still weak.
Still, yeah, whatever. We're going to wrestle after this and really see and record it in oil. Drop a comment if you want to see that. So I had to work really hard to get the strength that I do have now. And if anyone's followed me and Moy's journey, you know that we really were into fitness and pushing training for a long time, and we still are, but that was one of our main figureheads, like around 2012, 2013. We really pushed fitness and breaking, and in my opinion, pioneered that. But you have to go out of your comfort zone, whether it's physically or emotionally. You know, like I talked about writing on my walls earlier. Like that's something I had to go out of my comfort zone. Like my wife didn't like it, but I had to go out of my comfort zone and be like, man, this is gonna make me create something. You know.
Kelly.
Sorry, Kelly. I love you, baby. So more specifically too, whatever it may be for you, man, like do something that pushes your limits, whether it be training physically or push your limits emotionally, man. Put on a song that make you cry. Put on a song that make you remember something that really hurts you deep down inside, and see what output that you can produce from that.
Yeah, so you heard it, y'all. We talked about motivation and creativity and how to get out of these places where you're struggling and it becomes an obstacle, whether it's in your breaking or your personal life. Hopefully some of the things and ideas and concepts we shared allow you to find a way to create your escape and find this new you, right? And so with that being said, we're always going to be accepting new topics. So, you know, drop a comment, shoot us an email, a text, a DM on our social medias, and let us know what we need to talk about or what we can get advice on. Now, we're not saying that our advice is the best, but we're here to share how we think, and we want to connect with you guys. So we appreciate you guys tuning in.
I'm saying it's the best.
If it's the best, it's the best. We appreciate you guys
tuning in. Stay motivated,
in.
Stay creative. In the long run, it's going to pay off, y'all. Much love.
Much love. Peace, y'all.
Don't you ever say I'm weak.